Hi everyone, it's Rhiannon here, and I'm here to talk to you about another excellent book. So today, if you haven't already guessed from the title of this video or the books behind me, we are talking about Philip Pullman's The Secret Commonwealth, which is the second book in the Book of Dust trilogy. I'm so excited to talk about this book, but don't worry, it is an entirely spoiler-free video. You can watch this video if you have not read this. I will not be giving anything away, don't worry. If you don't already know, the Book of Dust trilogy continues Philip Pullman's original His Dark Materials trilogy, and the first book was released 2 years ago, and it is La Belle Sauvage. I was lucky enough to receive a proof copy of Secret Commonwealth, which meant I read it about a month ago, and now I am so excited that it's out because I have been dying to talk about it because I feel like this book is just packed full of things that you can discuss. Just a quick refresher, the world Pullman creates is a world very similar to our own, but with slightly tweaked elements, the main one being that everyone has a demon, spelt D-A-E-M-O-N, which is a manifestation of your soul, and this demon is an animal, and when you're a child up until puberty the animal can constantly change shape, but then it settles. And both series kind of play with the idea of science versus religion and how fundamentalists on either side have negative consequences for the world. So The Secret Commonwealth is set 20 years after the events of La Belle Sauvage and 10 years after the events of His Dark Materials. So Lyra, who was our main character in His Dark Materials, is now a 20-year-old university student. She's at Oxford. So when the book starts, Lyra is studying in her room and her demon Pan decides to go out because he's sick and tired of being cooped up. And we immediately, from basically page 1, get a sense that there's something not quite right with Lyra and Pan. Pan witnesses a man being murdered and manages to get his wallet and takes it back to Lyra, and what they find in the wallet leads them on the adventure that starts the Secret Commonwealth. So the book does follow mainly Lyra and Pan, but some characters from La Belle Sauvage now pop up, as well as some people from His Dark Materials. The character in this book is Malcolm, who was our main character in La Belle Sauvage, but he is grown up now. One of the things I really like about the Book of Dust trilogy is how different it feels to His Dark Materials. So La Belle Sauvage I absolutely loved because it was very insular, and we were just following Alice and Malcolm as they battled this storm, and it felt very, very different to His Dark Materials. And Secret Commonwealth, again, it is less insular than La Belle Sauvage. You know, there are more characters, the characters are older, the action still takes place over a short amount of time, but it spans the world. I will say that this series and this book in particular does feel a lot more grown up than His Dark Materials did. I mean, mainly because our main characters aren't children anymore, they're adults. I attended the launch of this book at Alexandra Palace on Wednesday, and there Philip Pullman spoke about how, when he was talking about how he got back into Lyra's mindset, he said that she's a girl who experienced the adventure of a lifetime when she was 12, and now she has to continue living her life, and you know, how would that affect someone? How would that play on their psyche? And I mean, this is something J.K. Rowling also explored with Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. You know, what happens when the adventure is over and you just have to go back to normal life. Lyra was prophesied to, you know, change the world, and she did, but she was only 12, and now she just has to be a normal person again. So it was really interesting to see how that has sort of changed her. And emotionally quite hard to read at some points, because if you were like me and you grew up with Lyra, she was always one of my favourite characters. She was just this gutsy, courageous girl who said what she wanted and knew what she wanted, and she was always very direct and confident. Whereas older Lyra, understandably, is a lot less sure, and she's a lot less decisive. She still has the same heart, but you know, it's quite sad to read in a way, but it felt very real and true to life. So one of the main ways Lyra has changed is that she's become a lot less imaginative and a lot more rational, and this is kind of where the Secret Commonwealth that the book is named after comes into play, because the Secret Commonwealth is Pullman's term for kind of folklore and folklore practices that happen all over the world. This was kind of brought a little bit into La Belle Sauvage, where the huge flood that took over England brought to the surface all these magical elements that had been hiding underneath. But whereas in La Belle Sauvage you kind of felt like Malcolm and Alice were in this sort of dreamlike state where anything could happen, Secret Commonwealth is a little bit more grounded, and Lyra slowly starts to see the magical things that are happening and starts to apply them to her own life and remember the things she went through as a child and how that can't be explained away by rationality. One of the parts of this book that I found so fascinating was that Pullman really investigates the nature of demons in a way that he didn't really question as much in His Dark Materials. But Secret Commonwealth very much goes into, well, what is a demon, and Do you always have to agree with your demon? Is it like fighting with yourself? And one of the issues, as I said, is Lyra and Pan have been fighting, and they don't know why, and they are getting further and further apart from each other. And I just found it so interesting because the demons have always been the biggest draw of his Dark Materials for me, because it's a literal manifestation of someone's soul that you can see and that the person can talk to. And I kind of took it for granted in his Dark Materials that you would get on with your demon, but he kind of hinted at in La Belle Sauvage, the main antagonist, Bonneville, he hated his demon and, you know, was constantly abusing her, and that idea comes very much into play in this book. And also Lyra discovers that maybe her and Pan being able to separate isn't as unique as she thought it was. The world that Pullman creates in this book also feels a lot more expansive. I mean, you can guess from the cover, it has a train. A lot of people go to a lot of different places. It starts in England, but then many different characters travel all over the world, through Europe, into Central Asia, which I think is probably where the third book is going to take place. I'm guessing though. One of the strangest yet most beautiful scenes in the book takes place with Lyra in Prague, and Prague, you know, as a city has always fascinated me, and I think is a source for a lot of magical stories because it's just this hive of magic and alchemy. And it was so exciting to see that world in Lyra's world with Pullman's like characteristic tweaks, and he kind of draws on elements of Prague that we know and then adds some of his own, and it was one of my favourite chapters in the book, I think. Well, I feel like I could talk about this book forever. I feel like there are a million things to discuss and I've barely scratched the surface, but I'm gonna have to end the video, otherwise this video will just be 24 hours long. But if you have read it, I'd love to know your thoughts. You can leave them in the comments down below, or you can always find me on Twitter. I'm at Rhiannon. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a lovely day.